Hello, scale modeling world, and welcome to another episode of YouTube's Scale Modeling channel. Today, we're going to start part 4 of building and detailing the HK 140H scale B-17 series. And we're going to concentrate on the upper turret, the ball turret, and how to detail the machine guns using the Masters 2-part barrels. These turrets are multiple pieces. They're not like the monogram kit where you have 2 pieces on a top and the gun and you're done. So I'm going to show you some techniques to build these correctly and to build them easily and have a good experience doing it. So let's get started. I've got the interior assemblies for the ball turret and the forward upper turret put together. And we'll start with this one here. It's not easy to do, and my parts were warped. These lower legs were warped, and they're kind of flimsy. When Monogram did this, it was all just one mold, and it was easy to work with. This is not so easy. So you have to, there's a kind of like a flange that sticks out here. You have to trim the end off in for the locating. There's a kind of a length of plastic for the locating pin on both sides. So what I did was I used a little bit of tester's glue in here so that I had a little bit of working time and it was nice and sticky, and got these set in place and then put this in place. Now the problem you're going to have is it tends to do this. So you're going to have to kind of eye it like I did. It's not perfect, but it's close. It's just a real flimsy build, and the pins on this end that go into the holes on this plate are just really shallow. So I use tiny drops of tester's glue, so I had a little bit of working time, and it tended to do this, and so it just kind of have to, I had to keep getting it centered before the glue finally solidified it a little bit. You can see it's still bent a little bit, and it's just there's nothing you can do. I've tried to bend it several times, and it's got styrene memory. It keeps going back. Now on the bottom, there's a small pin on the bottom that is supposed to locate into the hole right here. The problem is that this hole is so tiny and this pin is so tiny that when you drop it down inside the fuselage, it's very easy to miss, and then it'll be hard to pull back out. So what I did was I cut off the pin, and this is 40 thousandths plastic rod, evergreen plastic rod, drilled this out and super glued this into place, and then made this one about 10 thousandths wider on each side, so that when I drop it down from the top of the fuselage, that's what's going to happen. It'll sit in place, and it'll be a lot easier to get it in there. And I think that this works much better, much better. So you got to be careful drilling this out. You don't want to destroy this raised area here, because that sets the height of the turret on the top side of the fuselage. So again, I don't understand why they did it this way, but you know, when you're working in 1/32 scale, which they're HK 1/32 scale B-17, everything is much larger. But when they just kind of zoom down all of the electronic files and then cut their molds, some of this stuff is, the pins are so tiny, they're almost worthless. Now, on the ball turret, there's an upper structure. It's got some nice detail on it. Of course, you're not going to see any of it. And this, I think, will push against the top of the inside of the fuselage. I haven't tested it yet. But the way I did this was, this part of framing is one piece, so I taped these in place, and the pins are deep enough to where it'll set in place and hold it. And then you've got these 2 small legs which are separate, and you have to position them inside the pinholes properly and then there's like a little cup in here on this part, and it sits inside the cup. Again, it's just, I don't know why they did it this way. It's just, this kit has a lot of really small parts, and so anyway, I used tester's glue, and then I got it positioned properly and just pushed this side a little bit this way and held it so that both of these were properly positioned. And then I used tiny drops of medium set super glue. And when you get one side positioned properly, put a drop of super glue here, hold it for about 10 seconds, and you can move to the other side. So now it's fairly strong. Now and then these two holes right here on either side, that's what you glue the ball turret to. So while it may be accurate in appearance, and it may look good if you're going to open up a side of the fuselage, the problem is that in terms of buildability, it's really hard to do. And I wish they just had done it similar to the way Monogram did it, which their kits, while not as accurate as this, they're more buildable. Buildability and scale modeling is very important. It's a balance between the amount of detail you want to incorporate into a kit and whether it can be built well by an average modeler. So as I progress along here, I'm trying to show you how to get around some of these problems so that you'll have a better building experience with this kit. And when it's done, it's going to look nice, but surely there was another way to do this, especially with slide molding today. So there you have it. Just need to test it on the inside here and see how it looks. So I think it'll be okay, but we'll find out shortly here. I've got the superstructure sides taped together, and the forward bulkhead here, and the forward bulkhead for the bomb bay, and the flooring for the cockpit installed. And so that's the top piece, and it took a little bit to get it in there. It does work the way I wanted it to, but I think what I'm going to do, see, I'm struggling to pull it out again. What I'm going to do is sand this side down just a little bit, and so that it just drops in here with me not having to struggle to put it in. So, but yeah, this longer stem makes a big difference. Now on the bottom, the ball turret, now I know that the ball turret is going to be much wider than this opening, so when it drops down, it should fit right into place, but if you just drop it down, it falls right through because there's nothing on the inside to secure it to. So you just need to be aware of that. But I think once this is together, it'll properly position itself because the ball turret, like I said, is kind of larger. It doesn't go up and down like the one on the B-24. So yeah, it just kind of falls right through, and there's no pin on the inside to hold it in place. So once I get it together, what I may end up doing is putting a plate down in here on the inside so that, let me pull this out properly, so that the plate will butt up against this flat surface and just kind of hold everything straight up and down. And then I can put some tester's glue on this side and just drop it in, and that should work. So as we progress with the build, we'll see how it goes. But definitely going to have to put the ball turret together before I glue the fuselage halves up and see how everything fits. So I just wish HK had done it another way, because this is kind of fragile. I've got a solution, actually the solution for the ball turret, and this is what I did. I added a piece of plastic to the upper side of the fuselage, and I put a little pin, 40 thousandths pin right here in the center, and a corresponding hole right there. So what's important is that this be level. So what I had to do was I removed a little bit of the ribbing right here, and I inserted, first thing I did was I glued a tiny 20,000 strip. You can barely see it right there. I did a 20,000 strip first, which I laid across here just like this, and then I put 20 thousandths by 200 by 0.250 right across here, and then positioned this on the inside, got the approximate location, and just drilled a small hole. So that's a 0.045 hole, so that when I have the whole ball turret put together, it'll slip right into place here, just like, I'm going to get it in there, just like that. So there we go, just like that. That's how you fix it. And I closed up the fuselage, and everything fits, and there's no interference problem up here because that plate is level this way. So yeah, that's how you fix it. Another simple solution to a problem that should not have occurred to begin with, but we got it fixed. I've got most of the parts assembled and glued in place for the top turret, and I got to tell you, it was kind of disappointing because the gun receiver groups don't fit correctly inside of these small part openings that they give you. So let's go ahead and take a look, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. There was a square stub on this side and a square stub on this part here, and there was a corresponding hole on the inside of each receiver group, but they didn't fit. So what I did was I cut off that alignment pin, the square piece here and here, and then on the guns, what I did was I added 15 thousandths on each side, a strip of 15 thousandths, and then I had to add another 10 on this side because the distance from here to here was slightly different than on the other side. So now at least the barrels will slip into place. I got to tell you, the way they did this makes no sense. But again, I believe what they did was they just zoomed down the CAD drawings from 1 to 32nd scale to 1/48 scale, not thinking about the fact that some parts aren't going to fit right, and that the locating pins are so tiny that it's almost impossible to work with. So here's the workaround. Again, I replaced the crappy kit supplied barrels with these two-part Masters barrels, and that worked out really well. And then if you put these spacers on here, it'll close up the gaps so that you can actually position them with some testers, tiny drops of testers glue on both sides, and then you can close it up. So I've got this, the aiming block goes right there. I got to paint that black. The rest of this is just going to be zinc chromate green. And again, I mean, I just don't understand why they did this way. It's not very buildable, but I got it assembled, and with that additional piece down there and these spacers and those cut-off alignment pins, you'll be able to work with it. I've got the ball turret taped together, and I got to tell you, it was definitely another way to do this. So let me explain to you why I did this, because this disc right here is separate from this piece on both sides. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces on the outside. And the problem you have is if these discs, these small discs, don't sit correctly on this larger piece right here, the locating pins aren't going to work for you. They'll be skewed one way or the other. So what I did was I taped everything together, made sure that the 2 locating pins here and here, and on this side, here and here, were set correctly. Now the gun's a little off because the receiver group on the inside popped out of the locating pin that's on the inside here. So that's okay because it'll be glued in place correctly later on. But what's important is that I ran a little bitty bead of super glue right along this rim here on both sides so that the this piece is it's not logically, but is correctly positioned on this larger piece of plastic here. And it's really hard to put beads on this rim because it's all the same color, and as you concentrate with your eyes, you're really hard pressed to find where that rim is to put a drop of super glue in here, but I got it. So now I can go ahead and take the tape off and take this all apart and work with it a little more. The other thing is that this is the aiming system on the inside, that goes on the inside. And there's a locating pin here and a locating pin, an opening here. And these are how small the locating pins are. Almost impossible to work with. And I'm not sure, I may just leave this out because in order to position this, the only thing I can think to do is keep all this tape together except for this back piece and pull this off and then push this inside and try to get it correctly set up. But again, to do that, you got to glue it all together, and that creates a problem. So, so far, this is what I've done in terms of being able to put all this together. But another really weird assembly process. Again, buildability on this kit is definitely not very good. A lot of parts, they're small, and the instructions are not very well done for this assembly. So what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and pull the tape off here and then pull it out, take it apart, and show you. So just give me a second. I've untaped the ball turret, and I've done several things. There were 2 mold punch outs here and here, and I took a 10 thousandths by .250 strip, cut it, and super glued it into place over those 2 mold punch outs so that they would be hidden. Because when you look through the large portion of this glass, you could see them. So I took care of that problem. And then I finished running a bead of glue around the rim of this smaller piece here on both of these. And I painted the receiver groups for the machine guns a gunmetal color, and I used a tiny drop of slow set super glue on the inside of the positioning hole on each one of these, positioned it so I had a little bit of working time, and then inserted the barrel into place here so that it would position this receiver group correctly. The other thing is you got to make sure that it's the gun receiver group top is pointed upwards. So I took care of that one, and now I took care of this one, did the same thing. So this is the other side, and again the receiver group is pointed correctly upward, and again I used the barrel here to locate it. So now my next step is I'm going to tape all of these 4 pieces back together, and I'm going to glue the forward half of these to this piece, leaving this piece separate so that I can airbrush it the interior color and then see how I can fit this in place if it's even possible to do. So we'll go ahead and do that and see how that works out. I've got everything taped together, and it's very important to make sure that this disc and this disc are the same so that the barrels line up. Otherwise, you're going to skew them one way or the other because this side disc will rotate on you. So I was very diligent about making sure that everything was taped together correctly. And then I put tiny drops of super glue right along that seam line right there. And a little bit here and some on the other side. I was very careful not to get anything on this gray piece of plastic because I want to be able to pull this back piece off. And when I do that, I can go ahead and get on the inside, put a little more glue, and make it stronger. So I'll give this a few minutes to dry a little bit more, and then we'll go ahead and untape it and see where we're at. But I think it's, I think we got it. So we'll see. But and then I'll figure out how to put this piece inside, if I can do it. So get back with you in a little bit. I've got the ball turret disassembled. I got the back off. I had to use the tip of a number 11 X-Acto blade to kind of pry the top off, and then it popped out. And then I went ahead and with thin wire applicator, medium set super glue all along here, just tiny, tiny beads on the outside. I tried doing it on the inside. The problem is it's really, really hard to get on that ledge there. So I just went ahead and did it on the outside, and it worked out okay. So we'll go ahead and let this dry thoroughly, and then we'll be able to see what I can do with this piece. So maybe we'll be able to get it into place. I was able to get the part, the aiming system, inside of the turret assembly, the ball turret assembly, and the way I did it was I cut off the locating pin on this side, and I was able to squeeze it in there, insert the locating pin on the left side, and just slide it forward, and it nice tight fit. So, and of course there's a hole up top, but this will all be solid color, so you're not even going to see that. So, yeah, it worked, much to my surprise. So that solves that problem. Easy fix. And after I paint it, I'll go ahead and just put a drop of Tester's glue right on the inside there, and that's it. That's all we need to do. It'll hold it in place. So yeah, I can go ahead and pull this out and prepare it for painting. I need to be able to get it out here. There we go. Got it out. So it's just that positioning pin. This one is cut off, and it worked. I've got the ball turret assembled, and it came out pretty good. All I have to do now is mask it and airbrush it light gray. And as I showed you, this piece that I painted the yellow zinc chromate on the inside, by cutting one of the positioning pins off, you can slip it in there, get the positioning pin that's remaining into its alignment hole, and then this half that where you cut that positioning pin off will slide right into place. And then what I did was, let me go ahead and pull the barrels out. Then what I did was, of course, before I put this back on, I put a tiny, tiny drop of super glue, medium set, with this long applicator on each one of the pin locations, and that held it in place just fine. So once I got that done, I was able to snap the back piece in place, and I just ran some tiny beads of glue along here and here to hold it. And so now it looks pretty good. So when you go ahead and slide the barrels in, there's a little bit of play in the barrels. So when you slide them in, you got to make sure that see how they're off just a little bit there. So that one has got a little bit of play in it. So when I put them in, I put a drop of white glue in there and slide it in, and then I can position it, and we'll be done. But for now, I can go ahead and take the barrels out, and then see it's got wiggle this way too. So you just got to be careful how you do that, how you put it in there. And then I can pull the barrels out, and I'll put tiny pieces of masking tape over those two openings, so when I airbrush it, nothing goes in there. But the other thing is, and I didn't do this, clean the inside of the glass areas with a damp Q-tip and let it dry. I didn't do that. And there's a little bit of staining. I don't know if you can see it, like right there. And it's not going to show up real well, but, and then I just need to, when I'm done, just pop it in place on that framing that's on the bottom of the fuselage, those two positioning holes, and it'll be in place. So it wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be to put that zinc chromate yellow piece in place. And it looks pretty good. So there you have it. The three 50 caliber machine guns for the nose area of the B-17F. The kit gives you a lot of receiver groups and the barrels, which are separate. And of course the barrels slip right in the hole. The problem is that there's a lot of wiggle room on these barrels, and they're not very accurate. In addition to that, one of the tree stubs is right on the tip of the barrel, so you got to be careful how you do that. So if you do it the way the instructions tell you to do it, you insert the barrel into here, and then onto the framing, just like that. But what I did was something different. I used the Masters 2-part brass barrels, which fit nicely inside that hole. I had to open it up a little bit. I had to get in there with a .040 inch drill bit, open it up just a bit, and that's all I had to do. Now, that ball right there came from these barrels right here. And how I did it was I snipped the short piece off and used a sanding stick to very carefully just sand it down so that the surface was flat. I did the best I could and center punched for a drill bit, and I used this set of drill bits, and I started with that drill bit right there, really tiny. Instead of skipping every other one, I went just like this, one right after the other, and slowly opened it up. The other thing is that if you drill down too far, you'll snap the barrel on the other end, and then it'll be really, really hard to hold this small bead in place. So I drilled down only so far, and then just carefully increased the size of the hole, and then just before I got to .040, which is the hole size you need to slip over the barrel sleeve, I drilled all the way through, and then I held it tightly in between my fingers and got the last drill bit through there. So it was an experiment. I didn't think it would work, but it worked. And so here are the three finished machine guns for up front, and all three of them have the balls on them. So that will look so much better than these flimsy barrels that they give you in the kit. I tried, I looked at, I had a set of the Edward machine gun barrel, the machine guns, 50 cals for the HK kit, and the problem is that half the barrels were warped because they either pulled it out of the RTV mold too quick, because this is a resin casting, or it's just too thin. So if you want to use these, then you're going to have to snip the barrel off here and replace it with the master's barrel. But these came out really, really nice, much better than using the kit parts. Hey everybody, thanks for watching part 4, and stay tuned for part 5, where we concentrate on assembling the wings, and we're going to modify the engine nacelles for the Resin 2 detail 3D printed engine. So with that said, have a great evening, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up, and happy scale modeling.